Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 6th of May 2014. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, the new Call of Duty has been revealed, Epic teases a new Unreal tournament, and Dota 2 now has a larger player base than World of Warcraft. All this and the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. After the trailer was leaked onto YouTube, Activision has elected to officially announce the new Call of Duty title by the name of Advanced Warfare, which includes Kevin Spacey, who I assume will be weaponized at some point during the campaign. The game is set even further into the future than Black Ops 2, and is somewhat reminiscent of Crysis as far as I can tell, although certainly seems to be lacking the aliens from Crysis, which is probably for the best. Now, the game seems to be focused on the role of private military companies in the far future. And there's guns, there's hover bikes, there's handheld drones, and there's weaponized Kevin Spacey, which is perhaps enough to convince some of you that it is worth having. There also appears to be a fairly significant upgrade in terms of the actual graphical fidelity of the title, and it is the first Call of Duty title to be properly designed for next-generation systems. Now, Ghosts, of course, was released on Xbox One and PS4, but let's be frank, it was clearly not designed for them and was merely an up-resed and slightly polished version of the stuff that we got in the previous gen consoles. This time around, though, Sledgehammer has moved to a brand new engine, which actually would be, I believe, the first major increase in technology that we've seen since Call of Duty 2, where they upgraded from a modified version of the Quake 3 engine to the IW engine, which they've been using in various iterations to this very day. As to what the new engine actually is, we don't really know, but the trailer for the title certainly looks pretty good, at least better than the previous titles. There's no Crysis 3, but it's getting there, which is always nice to see. There have been no details released as to the multiplayer for the title as of yet, although there is a bit of interesting information about the single-player campaign in that there will be a progression system within it, which will allow you to upgrade your exosuit. Yes, that sounds rather Crysis-like. It allows you to climb walls with magnetic gloves, it upgrades a boost dodge towards cover, and lets you do things like super jumps, as well as use optic camouflage and hover in mid-air. This seems like a fairly interesting change to the way that the campaigns are usually run, and one has to wonder if it will allow for more choice in emergent gameplay as opposed to the railroaded stuff that you usually get from Call of Duty. Suppose we have to ask the same question that we ask every year, and that is, what does this game need to do in order to recapture our imaginations? I think after Black Ops 2, we were thinking, oh, things are kind of moving in the right direction. Then we got Ghosts, which was easily the worst Call of Duty title that I've played in a very long time. Well, for one thing, it needs to take lessons from Black Ops 2 when it comes to its campaign. It needs to allow for some variety, some exploration, it needs better level design, and of course, some degree of progression, which it seems like they're adding in, which is good. As regards to the multiplayer, what needs to be fixed there? That's the weird thing, isn't it? Because people absolutely adore Call of Duty's multiplayer. They really do. So messing around with it too much is probably not the best of ideas, and I think that they very, very much know that. From a PC perspective, though, I can tell you exactly what it bloody well needs. One, a proper PC version. I think that there's a much better hope for a proper PC version this time around, considering that the lead platforms for this seem to be the next-gen consoles, as opposed to the previous generation consoles. As you are well aware, Ghosts looked pretty damn terrible. It needs proper graphics options, it needs good quality textures, which is again something that Ghosts absolutely failed to deliver. It needs to run well, which again is something that Ghosts failed to deliver. Some ridiculous optimization problems with that game. It needs a field of view slider, it needs proper AA, it needs proper anisotropic filtering, it needs all of the effects that you would expect from a truly next generation game. Because otherwise, we do still have Crysis 3 sitting around on PC, and it looks pretty good, and no doubt has a better single-player campaign. For the multiplayer, of course, we need things like dedicated servers. I would certainly appreciate the ability to get a proper clan server for your clan, so you can play with them. I would also appreciate the ability to customize said server with settings that are not necessarily standard. Those servers also need to allow you to rank up, which is something that I believe the original Black Ops, or was it Modern Warfare 3, I can't remember which. Whatever the case, at launch, neither of those games allowed you to do that on a private server, which was an absolute joke. One does not necessarily want to jump into the peer-to-peer matchmaking in order to rank up, considering that entire game is based on ranking up. I would also very much like to see a return to the Black Ops way of doing things when it comes to the unlocks rather than the Modern Warfare system, whereby you are able to unlock the parts that you want for your gun once you earn enough points to do so, rather than having to repeatedly level that gun up in order to get that one sight that you really want that just happens to be rank 9 arbitrarily for no apparent reason. I feel the level of customization that Black Ops 2 offered was really, really good. I like the system they used there. I would like to see that repeated, and I'd also like to see a little bit of influence from the first Black Ops when it came to unlocking add-ons for your weapon. Outside of that, it would be nice to see maps that weren't reused time and time again. Good map design would be nice. A little bit more dynamic alteration of the maps would be good. They did put that in Ghosts, but frankly, in my opinion, it was a pitiful failure. There was bare minimum going on with that. Obviously, it can't be Battlefield, and perhaps you shouldn't be Battlefield, but it does seem like they need to work on their level design in the way that the actual levels flow a little bit and make sure their spawning system works well. And honestly, I'd absolutely love to see the kill streak system reworked again. I do genuinely believe that is a system that makes the rich get richer and gives you plenty of ways to just die in a cheap fashion. Like, oh great, someone just threw a predator missile at me. Alright, well, I guess I'm respawning then. It's certainly not the most fun in the world. The obsession with that system is really what has bothered me, I think, the most about Call of Duty. It's great when you're the one who gets them, but oh my god, is it terrible when you're just being pounded by kill streak after kill streak after kill streak. But the likelihood of them getting rid of that, considering its signature to the series, is not particularly high. I'd also, of course, like to see a good co-op mode. The Horde mode that was in Ghosts was okay, but Modern Warfare 3's co-op was actually pretty solid, shockingly enough. The kind of Spec Ops thing they had going on there, those cooperative missions, I think I'd prefer that over the co-op-based Horde mode, we really want to be Left 4 Dead kind of thing. So we'll see. You know, I'm always cautiously optimistic about Call of Duty for some reason, and I'm frequently disappointed, so I don't really expect too much out of it, but the setting seems nice, and hopefully the PC version will actually not suck this time around. Now, onto shooters that I can be more excited about. Epic has teased the fact that there's a new Unreal Tournament game on the way. Mark Rain, a big head honcho over there, the vice president of Epic Games, says, "I love Unreal Tournament, so excited for the comeback, more next week." And in a follow-up tweet confirmed, yes, Unreal Tournament is coming back. And there will be a stream on Twitch on Thursday at 2 p.m. EDT, twitch.tv/Unreal Engine, which is going to be an Unreal 4 dev community talk, as well as the future of Unreal Tournament. So it looks like we may very well actually get an Unreal Tournament 4. That is a possibility. Bear in mind, the last Unreal Tournament game was UT3, which was not particularly well received for a variety of different reasons. I mean, it was okay, but it was a game that it seemed really slow to me. I don't know why that was. UT was also always a particularly fast game, but the problem with Unreal Tournament 3 is that I think their focus was on consoles more so than anything else there, and I believe the game did genuinely suffer. Also, it was brown as hell. Oh dear. I think that's what led to Epic's obsession with brown over the next few years with the Gears of War series, but I would love to see an Unreal Tournament game come back to PC. The problem is, can they really release a PC-only version? Probably not. And as a result, it will end up being on consoles with everything that entails, up to and including things like limited numbers of weapons that you can carry, slower movement, easier aiming, that kind of thing. You know, a progression system, which I think would be absolutely awful. I would not want to see that at all. Maybe they could do it with cosmetics, but man, if they had a progression system in there, that would just completely ruin the point of an arena-based shooter where everyone begins on an even playing field. That's the wonderful thing about arena-based shooters, and it's why it's so annoying that they don't really exist anymore outside of some smaller indie games. If it was PC only, would they go down the free-to-play route? Because common knowledge right now says that you cannot sell a multiplayer-only shooter on PC and PC alone. You can't do it. So everyone keeps claiming, which is why we had things like Tribes be a free-to-play game as opposed to a game where you have to buy up front. There are certainly plenty of examples of smaller arena-based shooters that did try to become successful and failed completely, and Nexus was a prime example of that. That wasn't even particularly expensive. It was a fairly solid arena shooter, and, well, frankly, it bombed. It didn't do very well at all. Hell, there have even been some arena shooters that have been completely free, like Xenotic, for instance. You want to know how many players that currently has? Well, it's trackable. There's a list for all of this stuff. 25. 25 people currently playing that game. How many people playing Warsaw? 14. 14 people playing Warsaw. Both of those games are absolutely free, by the way, and no one is bloody playing them. Quake Live is probably the most popular title out of those, but for every one of those, there are so many that have fell flat on their face. I wonder if it simply comes down to promotion. Would an Epic game be able to bring that kind of audience in? Would it make enough money for them to even justify it? It's a dicey area to go into. It seems like a lot of people have really moved on from arena shooters. I wonder if they just got bored of the concept and were looking for something that was a little bit more team-focused, or maybe had more progression in it. They want to play Battlefield, they want to play CSGO. Or maybe it comes down to the idea that there just haven't been that many good ones lately. So it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The community has died off because there are no good high-profile games to really keep it alive. So while it may be exciting news to see that there's a new Unreal tournament coming down the pipeline, I am extremely concerned that it might not be what people are hoping for. I just think there are so many variables when it comes to releasing a new Unreal Tournament game, and if you mess with any one of the elements of the UT formula, then you can end up with a game that is not what people are hoping for. If it ends up being free to play, it could end up being pay to win. If it ends up being more like Call of Duty, people are going to complain. If it ends up being more like a console game, people are going to complain. If it ends up being something that is laden with DLC and doesn't have a map editor, people are going to complain. It's a dicey one. It's difficult. I am looking forward to seeing what they come up with, but I am certainly not believing that it's going to be the same Unreal Tournament that we were used to from yesteryear. And here's the big question. Do people even want that? I have to wonder, as much as we say we want an arena deathmatch shooter, do we really? As I've pointed out earlier, there are plenty of games that do that job well and are completely free, and yet barely have a player base as it is. Do we want a game without progression? Is it okay for us to have a game where we just jump in, play a deathmatch, and leave, and we haven't earned something for our account? Is a lack of progression something that we currently find acceptable for shooters? I mean, even Counter-Strike Go added some stuff like that in. They put drops into the game. It's not the traditional form of progression, but it is a form of account progression. You can earn things that are bound to your account. The point of all that stuff is to make the player feel like they've accomplished something with their time. And just playing the game is apparently no longer enough for a lot of people. That concerns me greatly when it comes to shooters, because I do genuinely believe that in many cases, the progression model can end up harming the game and gating content unnecessarily. Let's see what comes of it. And finally, this is kind of a piece of non-news, but it's been doing the rounds as of late, and I'd love to actually talk about it. And that's the idea that Dota 2 now has more unique players every month than World of Warcraft currently has subscribers. It's of course worth bearing in mind that WoW is in a lull right now because Warlords of Draenor has yet to be released, and there will be a spike in subscribers once again once the expansion is released, but it's something of a milestone for Dota 2. The curious thing to note about this, of course, is that that's still significantly less than what Riot claims League of Legends has. Now, bear in mind all the numbers that we ever get are just from Riot, but they're currently claiming about 67 million monthly players and indeed 27 million daily active players, which is a massive, massive number. And compared to that, of course, Dota doesn't really hold a candle to it. You know, they're basically 10% of what Riot is currently commanding. And one has to wonder why that is, and whether or not it is possible for Dota 2 to actually surpass League of Legends, and what the implications are for other games that are trying to enter the genre here. The most obvious point, I think, is that League of Legends got a hold on the market quicker than Dota 2 did. Dota 2's launch procedure involved going through this huge closed beta where the only way to get a key is to receive one from somebody else. It was a little bit tricky, a little bit of a pain in the ass to actually get into the game. And eventually it was released, but by that point, Riot had this massive hold on pretty much all relevant markets, whether it be North America, whether it be the South American territories, whether it be the EU, the Russian territories, or even, of course, Asia, where they have a massive stranglehold on both Korea and China, two absolutely massive markets. China was traditionally a country that played an awful lot of Dota, but the game was released an awful lot later in China, shockingly enough. You'd think that that would be a priority for Valve, but no, they released Dota 2 much, much later. By the time that had happened, then League of Legends had already actually managed to get its foothold into the market in a really big way, and the Chinese owners of Riot, Tencent, had actually gone out on the attack in China and put out things like negative advertising about Dota 2. Hell, even last year, Tencent were teasing the release of a new Dota-style game that looked a hell of a lot like Dota 2. In fact, it actually looked like a Chinese clone of it. So, there's definitely some resistance in that market, even though Dota 2 is starting to grow over there. You know, some of the best teams are certainly from China still. But the reality of the situation is currently that League of Legends has the majority market share when it comes to this particular genre. And yes, you could move from League of Legends to Dota 2, and you could have access to all the heroes and things like that. The problem is, can you even get people to do that? You remember how League of Legends was kind of marketing itself from the very start when its opponents were the original Dota and S2's Heroes of Newerth? Well, they were going out of their way to push the benefits of the removal of certain features from the game, such as creep denies, or town portal scrolls, or losing gold when you die. Things like hero turn speed, or creep blocking. I remember when I first started playing League of Legends, it was actually for that very reason that some of those features were gone. Now, when I played Dota 2, I learned to kind of appreciate the fact that they were there, but I can definitely understand why people would be intimidated by Dota 2 and wouldn't want to have to learn these new mechanics. Ultimately, though, I think the thing that keeps League of Legends popular is the idea of a progression system. Back in the day, the model for League of Legends was considered the epitome of free-to-play. It was considered the fairest free-to-play model. Which is insane when you think about it now, of course, but back then, that was the line of thinking amongst developers and amongst the public as well, saying, you know, this is a really fair way of doing it. Before this, free-to-play has been purely about buying power and things like that. Since Dota 2 came along, I believe that people have got a lot more picky about the free-to-play models, and they do genuinely believe, at least some of them, that the Riot model is pay-to-win, which I don't agree with. But the point is, if you have become committed to playing League of Legends and you've actually built up your account and maybe spent money or earned heroes, it is a very, very difficult thing to say to someone, oh, leave all that behind and go and play another game, even if everything is free in a game like Dota 2. So I think that is why the Dota 2 player base is not growing as quickly, and why we're not seeing people jump ship from League of Legends to Dota 2. It would require a fairly large mistake from Riot, I think, to actually get people to do that en masse, because at the end of the day, they're committed to their account. They feel invested in that game, and just like a game like, say, World of Warcraft, it feels like you lose something if you quit that game. It feels like all the work you've put into that account has, in fact, been for nothing, which is, interestingly enough, true, but not in the way that they think it is. The whole point of playing a game is to have fun, and that in itself is its own reward, but as I mentioned earlier, the progression system seems to be ingrained into our player psyche at the moment, and it's very difficult to detach ourselves from. Alright folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Before I go, I'd like to give you the OC Remix track of the day. The latest album from OC Remix is Shell Shocked, which is a remix of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I'm going to play you another track from that album. It is by the legendary Sixto Sounds. It is a remix of the first stage background music, Turtle Swing. It's called Hot for April. You can download all of this free over at ocremix.org. I'll see you next time.